The Baker Street Protectors, a Ned McRae memoir by Malcolm Noble. The Baker Street Protectors by Malcolm Noble.
The unmarked grave of Mr. Sherlock Holmes will be disclosed only when a peeler emerges from the fog with his Victorian lantern held high.
You're listening to the world of Malcolm Noble's crime fiction.
Then, the true secret behind Conan Doyle's short story, The Copper Beeches, will be unearthed. But who is this lone Bobby, destined to follow the trail of muddy murder from the dark alleys of Good Ladies Junction to the forsaken creeks of the Solent?
The Baker Street Protectors.
Hello everyone, my name's Malcolm Noble. Welcome to a special edition of my podcast. We're going to preview my upcoming mystery novel. The Baker Street Protectors will be published on the 28th of August 2015. We're going to chat about how the book came to be written. I'll read a couple of extracts and we'll keep you up to date with what's going to happen before the launch. So there's plenty to talk about. Let's get going. Scotland Yard. Whitehall 1212. I've got myself a murder.
The world of Malcolm Noble's crime fiction.
When Ned McRae died in the early years of this century, he was in his 90s, it fell to his daughter, Holly Maddox McRae, to clear the sheltered accommodation which had been the old policeman's home for those last years of his life. That's when she came across the boxes of manuscript and typescript, which we call the Ned McRae papers, and came to be known as the Timberdick
Ned had detailed over 30 cases, but from the start we realised that he had set aside 3 books from the rest. Holly was insistent that we shouldn't go ahead with the publication of these 3 books until we could verify absolutely 2 of the accounts concerned Ned's Secret Service during and after the war. The third story relies on Sherlock Holmes having been a real person.
You're listening to the world of Malcolm Noble's crime fiction.
I know that I'm on firm ground when I present Ned McRae's thesis that the real Sherlock Holmes visited our city and died here. My final consideration was whether I should disguise the location of his grave.
Those clips are from a video which I've posted on YouTube, reading the 4-page introduction to the novel. I hope you'll take a look at it. Search for Baker Street Protectors or the world of Malcolm Noble's crime fiction or just Malcolm Noble, and it should pop up easily enough. Now, I did think about reading the introduction again on this podcast, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a bit of a background talk towards the end of this episode. Then a little way down the line, we'll read another couple of extracts.
You're listening to the world of Malcolm Noble's crime fiction.
Now, as you would expect, my publisher sends out all sorts of press releases and information sheets about any new title, but in addition to that, I like to do some of my own publicity. And as a sort of pre-press release, I've compiled something of a Baker Street crossword, which I've sent out to likely addresses. So if you're on my mailing list, keep an eye on your letterbox. You never know what might pop through it. And let me know what you make of the crossword. Now, we don't know for sure, but we're thinking of doing another crossword to go with this year's Christmas card. We'll have to wait and see what happens about that.
The Baker Street Protectors, a Ned McRae memoir by Malcolm Noble.
Paperback publication is the 28th of August 2015. Pre-order your copy now or contact the author for a personalised signed copy. A couple of early reactions from readers about news of the next book. Jonathan has tweeted, "McRae, I know your methods are all very Sherlockian." Yes, a distinct Baker Street feel to that one. And here's a text message from Mike. "Sorry to trouble you so early," he says. "Your new book, you said Sherlock Holmes killed some woman's granddad. Wasn't he fictitious?" Oh, now there's a whole philosophical question in that. For those of you who seriously want to search for the truth in this, I offer you another clip from the video. Remember, this is taken from the introduction before the book gets going.
We thank the generous lady, now 65 years older than she appears in this story, and living contentedly in her semi-detached, not a dozen miles from Jane Austen's cottage, for checking Ned's version against her own recollection.
Now, you'll need to identify the character. She can't be very old in the story if she's still alive 65 years later. And she's living in a semi-detached house within a 12-mile radius of Jane Austen's cottage. Now, this really is for A-level studies. It will take you quite some time to work it out. But for those Sherlockians who want to track down the truth behind all these matters, there is a first clue, and a meaty clue it is.
That's amazing!
Hi, I'm Christine, the crime writer's wife. If you have enjoyed Malcolm's books, why not add something extra to your collector's bookshelf? Our selection of online merchandise includes mugs, personalised letters and greetings cards. You can even request your favourite episode from the books read especially for you. Visit malcolmnoble.com or go straight to our budget page on 5 Squid. That's 5squid.com and search for Malcolm Noble.
When they closed the Albemarle file in '49 and sent me back to my division, Superintendent James W. Ranbotham, lately of the Hong Kong Police and more recently a failed applicant to Gibraltar's Y scheme, made it clear that I deserved no part in policing his city. I wasn't allowed on constabulary property. My name was banned from duty rosters, and inspectors were instructed to accept no evidence from me. James W. took charge, and he was good at it. He closed Good Ladies Junction to traffic. 2 black police cars made do as a control centre at the head of Rossington, where the superintendent took up position and defied any criminal to take a pop at him. "We've got men coming in from the county," he barked, full of command. "Let's do a bopper job, lads. A sergeant making up teams of 3 in each street. I want the back gardens and outhouses searched. You know what you're looking for? A sergeant to take pairs on each pavement, working his scissors, knock on every door. Is everyone in who should be? Where are the dogs, someone?" Someone replied, "Just getting here, sir." "I want the dogs on the roof. Don't tell me what force orders say. Get the dogs up there. They've more sense than you lot." Then, "The CID, where are the damn detectives? You 3, go like rabbits through the area. Stop anyone likely." Not for the first time in my life, I curled up between empty sacks on the back of a horse-drawn cart, and thank God that the warmth made up for the smell. Our progress along the lanes and through the forest villages was slow but steady. I think Esme may have been mesmerised by the sound of her regular footsteps. We neither slowed at junctions nor hesitated at level crossings. Now and then the woman would call out, "All's well," when someone appeared on the road or another opened a bedroom window. At the stroke of 1 o'clock we filed into the Chief Constable's office. The old man had pushed his chair back from the expansive desk, and his clerk at a small table pushed against the chief's was already marking up the page. The drill sergeant, wearing white gloves and a tailored jacket with a red plait at the shoulder, positioned Ramsbotham at the door and nodded at the 2 escorting officers who were standing between me and the big desk. They were supposed to stop me attacking the old buzzard. The chief looked at me and played with his moustache. "I had incurred my Chief Constable's gravest displeasure," he said, and the clerk recorded the admonishment in the ledger. The drill sergeant barked, the escort snapped to attention, and we all marched from the room. "You have ruined my career, Mr. McRae," he said as I stood in the middle of his office. "The Chief Constable has determined that I obstructed the investigation with my own ragged inquiry." His words, Mr. McRae, a ragged inquiry. "It seems," he concluded, ready to carry the last box of trinkets from his office, "that I am to report to a civilian." He left me alone in the office. The correspondence trays, the blotter and other clutter had gone. He'd left an open airmail letter on the desk, which I tucked in my pocket, meaning to hand it in at the front desk. The office looked cold. There was just the filing cabinet, chair, the desk and the hat stand, and a broom propped against one wall. I swept the carpet and checked that the window was properly latched. On my way out, I told the cleaner to lock up, but I forgot about the letter. That evening I warmed my toes on the gas fire in my new digs and found the letter from Rambothan's desk. It had been written by the secretary of the Baker Street Irregulars, a New York dining club of increasing reputation, seeking clarification about the death of Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Days later I wrote a long and detailed reply, but I can't remember posting it.
The world of Malcolm Noble's crime fiction.
I'm especially excited by the prospect of the Baker Street Protectors being published in August because I think it's one of the most honest Ned McRae tales that I've written so far. Yes, I enjoyed doing all the Sherlockian research and it was a very enjoyable and easy book to write, but it really goes beyond that. I feel that Ned McRae in this story acts more on his own free will than in any of the other books which I've written about him. For some years now, one of my regular readers has been campaigning for me to write a book based around Ned McRae's notebooks and diaries and the pocketbooks that he would have kept while he was working on his beat. And the Baker Street Protectors very much grew out of that idea. I wrote around that subject and then soon found that I had a foundation for another idea that had been in my mind for some time, and this was a Sherlock Holmes book. In the second chapter of the book, where the Sherlock Holmes element is introduced, it seemed to come very naturally, and it wasn't long before I was scribbling away 10 to the dozen. It was important to me that the Sherlock Holmes element should be a central part of the book, but shouldn't be forced or twisted to fit in with the story in any way. Also, I wanted the Sherlockian elements to be quite crunchy, quite crusty. I wanted there to be something that the Holmes fans could get their teeth into. And so if you look into this book, I'm not going to tell you too much, but if you look into this book, you'll find that there's more than one mystery to solve. And there's more than one Sherlockian assumption that is challenged and supported with a certain degree of evidence. But, of course, writing for the serious Sherlock Holmes fan, you are, to a certain extent, a hostage to fortune. My goodness me, I've tried to get all the details right, but I'm sure somebody will pick me up somewhere. And then, of course, there is the introductions telling us how the Ned McRae stories and the Timberdick mysteries came to be written. Now, if I'm honest, this has been in my notebook for many years. It goes back to the days when I was writing The Case of the Dirty Verger, but I've never quite been sure how to use it. I was halfway through the Baker Street Protectors when I realised that now was the time to fish out this introduction, dress it down and give it a proper home to go to. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this episode 8 of Between the Lines and Behind the Pages. Please make sure you're on my mailing list. My current book is The Body and the Bicycle Shed, available from bookshops and the internet sites, but this evening we've been talking about my forthcoming book, The Baker Street Protectors.
I know that I'm on firm ground when I present Ned McRae's thesis that the real Sherlock Holmes visited our city and died here. My final consideration was whether I should disguise the location of his grave.
My thanks to Freeze Effects and YouTube for the royalty-free. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Malcolm Noble. You've been listening to Between the Lines and Behind the Pages, and thank you for supporting the world of Malcolm Noble's crime fiction.
Malcolm Noble's crime fiction.
Bye.
The Baker Street Protectors, a Ned McRae memoir by Malcolm Noble.